Hey everyone, I'm Steve Cherry and this is my World Cup video blog. Thanks for tuning in. This is my week 2 review. So I'll be starting from June 20th to June 26th, the end of the group stage. Let's start with Italy and Costa Rica. The match was to determine if the Costa Ricans were a real contender in Group D, and they proved it, keeping it even for the majority of the game. Costa Rica's frontman, Brian Ruiz, helped seal the win, scoring the game's only goal just before halftime. A 1-0 result was enough to see Costa Rica to the knockout stage. The next game was France vs Switzerland in Group E. One of Group E's most important matches, the two European powerhouses put on a show, as France scored 3 goals at will in the first half, and even though the Swiss scored 2 in the second half, it wasn't enough, as the French would continue their onslaught and win 5-2, securing their place in the knockout stage. The next game was Ecuador vs Honduras. Carlos Costley became the first Honduran to score at the World Cup since 1982, but Ecuador's Enter Valencia nabbed 2 goals to help Ecuador possibly get out of the group and eliminate Honduras. The second game of Group E for Argentina and Iran. A surprisingly good game considering the difference in FIFA rankings of these two nations. Iran gave it their all and fought until the end, but Lionel Messi showed off his greatness to the world by scoring in the 91st minute to help Argentina secure a place in the knockout stage on their 1-0 victory over the Iranians. Germany vs Ghana was a main game in Group G. This was a game that started slow, but had one of the most exciting second halves of the group stage. Both teams scored almost instantaneously after the half, and Ghana even took the lead on an Asamoah Gyan strike in the 63rd minute. But Miroslav Klose scored the second goal for the Germans, giving them the draw and tying him with Ronaldo from Brazil as the all-time leading scorer in World Cup history with 15 goals. Next in Group E was Bosnia-Herzegovina versus Nigeria. The game that proved Bosnia just isn't ready for the next step just yet, but showed a lot of potential for both sides. Although Asmir Begovic of Bosnia played a wonderful game in net, he was beaten by Peter Odemwingie in the 29th minute, which was enough to see the Nigerians win 1-0. Group H featured Belgium vs Russia. Group H seemed to be one of the most boring groups to me until this match day began. Although Belgium won the game 1-0 in dramatic fashion late in the game, and Divock Origi became the first team since 2006 to score at the World Cup, neither team gave up, and the game was very competitive. Algeria vs South Korea proved to be one of the most exciting games of the weekend, as both teams were ready to play, but 3 first-half goals by Algeria saw the Koreans' hopes deplete rapidly. They didn't give up, but South Korea still lost to Algeria 4-2. Portugal vs USA was the showcase game of the weekend. This matchup was vital for both teams' hopes of advancing out of the group of death. An early mistake by Jeff Cameron saw Portugal on top, but that seemed to light a fire under the USA as they relentlessly attacked for the remainder of the game. The USA finally equalized in the 64th minute off a rocket from Jermaine Jones. The USA then took the lead dramatically in the 81st minute off a tap-in by Clint Dempsey. With the win, the USA would guarantee their survival in the competition, but Cristiano Ronaldo spoiled that with a beautiful cross late into extra time that saw Varela of Portugal score the equalizer just before the final whistle, ending the second wave of games for each team in a draw. So let's move on to the final games of the group stage, where each game of the group stage is played simultaneously with the other from the same group to avoid match fixing. In Group B, Australia became Spain's only victim at the World Cup. It was a consolation victory for the defending champs before heading home. Both teams had been eliminated before the game, but David Villa scored one of the best goals of the competition in my opinion. Showing his world-class ability has not gone anywhere. Spain won the game 3-0. Netherlands proved their dominance over Group B by defeating the undefeated second-place Chileans, who looked extremely strong through their first 2 games. Robin van Persie missed the game due to an accumulation of yellow cards in their first 2 games, but the Dutch did not miss a beat, winning 2-0, finishing the group in first place. Group A saw an exciting set of matches which included hosts Brazil. Brazil came back to life against Cameroon after a performance against Mexico that saw them lose a bit of confidence. Neymar netted a brace, and Fred scored his first goal of the competition at the perfect time, helping Brazil win the game 4-1 over the indomitable Lions. Mexico continued their good play under manager Miguel Herrera, who was just as entertaining as the game. Mexico scored 3 goals against Croatia, and even Chicharito Hernandez ended his year-long drought and got on the board for El Tri. They won 3-1, giving them the key second-place position from Group A. Group D, the group of champions, which was led by Costa Rica. Costa Rica vs. England was a consolation for the Three Lions, as they had already been eliminated from the competition and Costa Rica had already secured a place in the knockout stage. The game saw both sides get chances but end in a 0-0 draw, securing first place for Costa Rica in Group D. Italy vs. Uruguay, which in my mind was the most controversial game of the group stage. The referee made calls to give Mario Balotelli and Claudio Marchisio of Italy cards for fouls in the game. Nothing was more controversial, though, than Luis Suarez of Uruguay biting Italian defender Giorgio Chiellini. This was an inexcusable act, which has now seen Suarez receive a 4-month ban from football. Of course, just 1 minute after the biting incident that went unnoticed by the referee, Diego Godin, captain of Uruguay, popped in a header to take the lead 1-0, crushing the hopes of the Azzurri and seeing the Uruguayan side secure second place in Group D. Group C saw Colombia take first place in their first 2 games and move on to the knockout stage with a game left to play against Japan, but all 3 other teams were vying for that key second place position. Colombia continued their top form play against Japan in both teams' final game of Group C. Colombia has definitely been one of the most impressive teams of the tournament. Japan, on the other hand, has been a complete letdown. Colombia won the game 4-1, finishing group play on top of Group C with 9 points, and they remained undefeated going into the knockout stage. James Rodriguez really put this team on his back and carried them out of this group. It's incredible what he has done in the absence of Radamir Falcao. Greece vs. Ivory Coast was another game that I did not see going the way it did. Greece, who looked awful when they opened their campaign against Colombia, played their best game so far, opening the scoring just before halftime. Ivory Coast equalized and looked all but in danger of being eliminated until a penalty in the 93rd minute saw their World Cup dreams crushed as Georgios Samaras of Greece hit the penalty and helped Greece win 2-1, qualifying for the knockout stage and eliminating Les Elephants. Group F should certainly be called the Group of Messi. Argentina and Nigeria faced off on the final match day. This was a thrilling match and Lionel Messi was at his best again, scoring 2 early goals and helping his team get the 3-2 victory, winning the group and finishing undefeated. While Bosnia was eliminated, Iran came into their match with slim hopes of advancing, but Bosnia quickly ended that wishful thinking early with a beautiful strike from main man Edin Dzeko. The onslaught continued, seeing Bosnia win their first ever World Cup game and eliminating the Iranians 3-1. Group E had a pretty exciting final day. With Honduras already eliminated, the Swiss had everything to play for, and this became the Xherdan Shaqiri show. He is known as the Alpine Messi, and he proved why, netting the 50th hat-trick in World Cup history, scoring on 3 beautiful attempts. The Swiss won the game 3-0, but needed help from the French if they were to advance over Ecuador. France vs. Ecuador was the most uneventful game for the French so far, and it was the only game in which they did not score. Once Antonio Valencia of Ecuador was sent off with a red card, the game was all but over and the French secured the top spot in the group, eliminating Ecuador from the World Cup. Group G, the group of death, was one of the most exciting groups of this group stage, and it came down to the final day when all 4 teams still had a chance to advance. Germany and USA faced off, and both teams were paying close attention to the score of the other game of this group, but the terrible conditions contributed to a sloppy game, which saw Germany win 1-0 over the USA, securing first place in the group. Ghana and Portugal both still had a chance of getting out of the group with a loss by the USA, but it would have to only be for one of them, and it did not start well for Ghana. John Boy, a Ghanaian defender, made a major mistake early on, scoring an own goal, but Asamoah Gyan equalized early in the second half. In the closing stages of the game, another major mistake by the Ghanaian backline and keeper saw Cristiano Ronaldo end Ghana's hopes, scoring the late winner and helping Portugal win 2-1. The final day of Group H was also very exciting, as all 4 teams were still in it. Belgium had secured a spot, but the other 3 were still fighting for that final spot. In Belgium vs. South Korea, the Koreans' hopes of seeing the knockout stage dwindled, and Belgium already secured the first place in Group H. Surely South Korea would come out and lay it all on the line? Wrong. They basically laid over for the Belgians, and the game ended with Belgium completing an undefeated run in the group stage, winning the game 1-0. The final game of the group stage was Algeria vs. Russia. This game was much more interesting and saw both teams fighting their hardest to make it out of the group stage. Russia scored an early goal, knowing that if they held that 1-goal advantage, they would advance. But Algeria kept pushing the play and finally scored the equalizer they needed to secure a draw, which would see them through to the knockout stage for the first time in their history. So how did the groups finish now that all the games have been completed? Group A, Brazil finishes on top with 7 points, beating out Mexico on goal differential. Both Cameroon and Croatia have been eliminated. Group B, the Netherlands won all 3 of their games, finishing with 9 points and scoring 10 goals, the most of any team in the group stage, while Chile came in second, finishing with 6. Both Australia and Spain have been eliminated. Group C, Colombia finished on top with 9 points and an astonishing 3-goal per game average, while Greece escaped with the second place spot. Ivory Coast and Japan have both been eliminated. Group D, Costa Rica shocked the world and finished on top of the group of champions with 7 points. Uruguay finished in second with 6 points, but will have to continue without starman Luis Suarez. Both England and Italy have been eliminated. Group E, France completed the group stage on top with 7 points, and Switzerland came in second with 6 points. Both Ecuador and Honduras have been eliminated. Group F, Argentina dominated the group, winning all 3 of their games, and starman Lionel Messi really stepped up. Nigeria finished in second with 4 points, and both Bosnia and Iran have been eliminated. Group G, Germany finished undefeated and on top of the group with 7 points. The USA finished second with 4 points, beating out Portugal on goal differential. Ghana and Portugal have both been eliminated. Group H, Belgium dominated their group, winning all 3 games and only giving up 1 goal. Algeria came in second with 4 points. Russia and South Korea have both been eliminated. Now let's take a look at the matchups in the round of 16. Day 1 sees 4 South American teams in action as Brazil takes on Chile and Colombia takes on Uruguay. On Day 2, the Netherlands take on Mexico and Costa Rica takes on Greece. On Day 3, France vs Nigeria, followed by Algeria vs Germany. The final day will see Argentina play the Swiss and the USA play Belgium. Here are the top scorers after the group stage in this year's tournament. With an average of 2.83 goals scored per game, there were 136 goals scored in the group stage, the most in World Cup history. All of the players on the list, besides Enner Valencia, are still competing for the title. My duds to studs this week will be really short and sweet. It's going to be a team. It's going to be Colombia. They proved me wrong throughout the group stage, and James Rodriguez proved that he is the man. I think they are a true contender and could even win this World Cup. Their team is very strong. In a special segment, here's my stud to dud, or rather vampire, Luis Suarez. I don't know what this guy was thinking biting someone. He definitely cost Uruguay any chances of winning the World Cup and any chances of him having a great legacy for his international career. He's 27 years old. He had the whole world ahead of him, and he really blew it this time. Well, thanks for tuning into my World Cup video blog. This has been my Week 2 review. I'll be doing another review after the round of 16. I'm Steve Cherry. Take care.